Hi everybody, Jason here. Today I'm going to do a short review on my new Team Associated B44.2. I bought this vehicle just a few weeks ago, I guess it'd be about a month ago now, and I built it literally the day before a race at the track. I ended up putting the electronics in it the morning of the race, and it's been pretty fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and pull the wing off real quick, or maybe I'm not, just because it'll make everything easier to see. Pull the body off. The car is really cool. It actually went together better than my two-wheel associated car, believe it or not. So we'll just toss that off to the side. Yeah, I know I have a fancy white paint job because, well, I painted this body at the track and put some high-level associated decals on there. So be it. When I built the car, it went together really well. One of the things I always do when I'm building something with a graphite chassis is I take a file and I always try to shave off all the sharp edges, just so that when you do have a lot of wiring or something like that, it's less likely to tear into the wiring so that everything doesn't short out. Some guys like to seal their carbon fiber chassis with glue and stuff like that. I've never really done that. Now, on this particular car, I've tried a lot of different products. I've tried some Speed Passion speed controls, I've tried Tekin speed controls, but I had never tried any of the LRP speed control stuff. The LRP stuff is supposed to be really good. I had saw that Ryan Cavalieri had been running an LRP Flow Works team, even though he was sponsored by Orion, so I figured, what the heck, I'd give it a try. And here it is. Now, if you're wondering about the wiring, this is the wiring that the speed control came with. I was in a huge rush, and I really didn't take time, like you really should, to wire all this stuff up. I just went ahead and tinned the ends of the wires, and I soldered it up. So this is an LRP Flowworks Team speed control with a Reedy 6.5, a Reedy Sonic. This is not the new one. I think there's like Mach 2 or something out. This is not that. This is just the original Reedy Sonic 6.5. with a Savox 1258 titanium geared servo and some Mod X saddles that I bought off of a buddy because I was kind of in a rush. The car went together really good, and the setup that I'm using is the setup that you buy right out of the box. The only thing that I've changed at all on this car was I went to a little bit of a softer front spring, which is pretty uncommon. We just had the Chi-Town shootout at Leisure Hours Raceway here in the Chicagoland area. And a lot of the factory guys, or guys that are at least sponsored by Associated, were running a softer rear spring and a heavier front spring. But when I tried that, it really made the car, it made it respond faster, but it just didn't seem to just wasn't as planted through the corner. So I'm pretty happy with the white springs in the back. I've got grays up front. Blues are what come in the kit. The only thing that you'll change from a kit setup is they call, I think, for 35 front and rear, and most guys go 35-30. I run the front diff a little bit tighter than I run the rear diff. Other than that, the car is just great. I've never owned a B44 before, so I can't tell you too much about the previous versions. I can tell you that the shocks went together well. The car drives amazing. It jumps amazing. It would be nice if the diffs would last a little bit longer. But I guess I'm probably running my slipper a little bit tight from some of the people I've talked to, so my diffs are starting to get a little bit crunchy. There's really not a lot. I don't really have too much to tell you other than I love this car. It's awesome. It drives like an absolute slot car on just about any surface. As long as you're on the right tires, you're in business. One morning, the ball cups that Associated sends with this car, they flat out suck. I don't like hating on too many companies or hating on products, but the ball cups that come with this car are absolutely freaking horrible. I literally had a buddy of mine build the car like a week before me. He went out, drove it. Literally a minute later, he brought it in with a broken ball cup, fixed it, took it back out, brought it in with another broken ball cup. I was like screaming at him to change the ball cups. He just wasn't having it. Finally, after 3 different attempts at driving on the track, and literally no more than 6 minutes of driving total, he broke 3 ball cups, came in, and I don't know what he put on there, maybe RPM. These are the Lunsford just the ball cups, not the turnbuckles. These are just the factory associated turnbuckles, and they work well. And these are the Lunsford Punisher ball cups, and they work absolutely awesome. I'd really like to buy the Lunsford Super Duty turnbuckle kit for the car. They just haven't been available. They've been on back order forever, probably because everybody knows that the associated ball cups are horrible. Running a 6.5, you can boost it, and the car will just be a monster. I'm running absolutely no boost whatsoever. I think I'm geared with a 21 tooth pinion and whatever the spur gear that comes with the car is. I think it's like an 81 maybe, and the car's great. It could use a little bit more speed on the bigger tracks. So if you're over, say, 100, 120 feet, you're right at the limit where you probably could add some boost in there. I don't know that you absolutely have to have it, but it would be nice. If you're under 100 feet, I went down to RJD maybe a month ago for one of their races, or a few weeks ago for one of their races, and this car was absolutely perfect down there, just the way it sits. It didn't. I truly believe that adding boost may have slowed the car down or created more wheel spin, which is, counterproductive. Other than that, the car's good. I mean, it comes with a nice chassis protection sheet. I don't know. It's newer than the old car. It has these fancy little plastic battery straps that come up and down, and there are some really new cool products that like J Concepts has released for this vehicle. They've released a new steering rack that has a carbon fiber drag link. They've got some. I think it's part of the Monroe line, the carbon fiber straps that go over here. The only thing that I may consider buying is there's an aluminum piece that goes right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I guess probably you can. There's an aluminum piece that goes right here to cover the spur gear, and it's open. There's also a carbon fiber piece. At some point, I'm going to buy one of those. I just don't know which one, and I don't know when, but I definitely will. I'm not a big fan of this plastic piece. These screws, by the way, right here that hold the carbon fiber top plates down, they do tend to loosen up. So even with a little bit of blue Loctite, which is the weaker stuff, the non-permanent stuff, they've still backed out a couple of different times. So you definitely want to keep an eye on your top plate screws. There are a lot of aluminum parts that you can buy for this vehicle. You can buy some of these plastic pieces that kind of hold the I don't know the name of it because I've only had this for a little while, but it's a little plastic piece that you anchor the shock tower in. But I just don't think you need them. I mean, they're fancy, but they're not going to make the car go any faster. One thing that I'm curious is I haven't noticed in the rear here, with these hubs, the two-wheel buggy uses the carbon tower, which lowers down the roll center. And I'm curious that I haven't seen anybody running the carbon towers on these. So now that we just had the recent race out in at the Cactus Classic just went on this last week or so, I'm curious to see if any of those guys ended up running the carbon towers on the factory team hubs for this car. It has little spacers. You probably can't see this, but there are little spacers where you can actually shift the battery rearward or a little bit more forward. Most of the guys at my track like the battery farther back. They feel like it makes the car more planted. I like the battery farther forward. I feel like the car steers in, has more low-speed steering. And when you do slide the car, it's definitely more predictable. It feels like with the battery farther forward. So that's really about it. I mean, it's a great kit. If you're interested in a four-wheel, I would recommend the B44.2 in a heartbeat. I will say this. This is probably the best part of the video, so if everybody else shut it down, you're getting to hear it and they aren't. There are a couple of manufacturers that are using gear diffs. X-Ray happens to be one of them. For the longest time, I believed that a disadvantage of driving this particular car was that it used ball diffs. I thought that was a disadvantage. Financially, I guess it is a disadvantage because rings and diff balls and rebuild and everything. But we recently had a large race at Leisure Hours, the Chi-Town Shootout, and I had a factory driver tell me that in their vehicle, which comes with gear diffs, that they're running ball diffs, and that at certain tracks on the West Coast, it was between a half a second and 0.7 a second a lap faster, which was really surprising to me because you would think that gear diffs with no give and the adjustability using different fluids would be faster, but apparently some of these other manufacturers whose cars come with gear diffs now are running pre-production ball diffs. So that's pretty interesting. So if you're thinking about another vehicle, perhaps the X-Ray or the Durango buggy or some of the other buggies that come with gear diffs. If you're leaning towards one of those vehicles because they come with a gear diff, think again. I think that you'd be pretty happy with this. If you've had good luck with associated products in the past, this is definitely a thumbs up. I'd say absolutely jump on the bandwagon. It's fun. It's far more durable than I was told it would be. I've bounced this thing off tubes with the throttle just wooded, and it hasn't broke. I'm not saying it won't break. I've ripped a few front arms off of it, trying to get through chicanes faster than I probably should have, or maybe just misjudging some corners. One pitfall on this buggy, the one thing that friggin' drives me nuts, is I'll try to do a close-up on this. To be honest, I'll probably just get lazy and won't do it. But I don't know if you can see this or not. But what happens is yeah, you probably can't see this. But what happens is when this is at full droop, when you build the shocks with the limiting setup that they tell you to in the manual, the dog bone is nearly out of the outdrive. So, a reasonable amount of flex, something like this, and you can see that it comes right out. I don't know if you can see that, probably not, but the dog bone will actually come right out of the outdrive. So, on several different occasions, including after making the A main at the Chi-Town shootout, me and a buddy were screwing around, trying to, battling it out, and I don't remember exactly how it went down. I think I tried I think he crashed, and I tried to avoid him, and maybe I rolled the car over, and it popped the dog bone. So that was the end of my A main 3 laps in, which was kind of a bummer. So there are a few things you can do. You can go ahead and you can add some more shims and shim the dog bone in, but you got to be careful because this has so much plunge when you compress the suspension. You don't want it to bind or to smash into the inside of the outdrive. The other thing you could do is you could just go ahead and limit the shock with one more limiter. Now the downside of that is, of course, when you start limiting the shocks, you're playing with droop and you're playing with how much weight can transfer frontward and rearward and things like that. I will probably just go ahead and take one more shim and go ahead and try to shim it in and hopefully leave it like that. So, but that is something to be aware of. So the two downfalls for this car: sucky ball cups right out of the box, and the dog bones pop out if you build it the way they tell you to build it. So other than that, and just in the rear, not in the front. Other than that, I absolutely love this car. I've driven, I've personally owned the Durango four-wheel drive buggy. It's a good buggy. I would take this over that any day. I've driven the X-Ray buggy, which is also very, very nice. I would take this over that. I've driven the Kyosho buggy. I will say this, the Kyosho products are super high quality, but I just don't know, dollar for dollar, there's no better four-wheel drive platform on the market right now. So I don't have any experience with like Yokomo or some of these other brands, but I can tell you that as far as Kyosho or Durango or X-Ray, I would take the associated B44.2 in a heartbeat. I hope that I answered any questions you guys might have. If you have questions, you can always hit me up on the YouTube channel. You can please comment or like or subscribe to my channel, and I'll be glad to do more videos. If you guys have products that you'd like reviewed, please let me know. I'd be glad to review them. Sometimes I can buy them, sometimes I can borrow them, sometimes I can usually work it out one way or the other. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.